Hi there, YouTube. Today's Kingdom Melody is really kind of a load. I mean, it's full of misrepresentations for one thing, and for another, it's rife with unnecessary punctuation. I mean, good grief. Yes, friends, the apostrophes are back in a big way with this one. This song was number 58 in 1966, number 130 in 1984, and thank goodness, by 2009, it was gone. It's called Joyful Service.
Let us serve with joyfulness the Lord and King, as our gifts and talents to His work we bring.
Okay, I'm stopping right here because we have our first misrepresentation to talk about already. And there are multiple misrepresentations here in these two lines. First, Jehovah's Witnesses are always talking about how joyful they are, how happy they are to serve, how we're Jehovah's happy people, etc., etc. But the reality is that most actual Jehovah's Witnesses are anything but happy. They have to pretend to be happy all the time because that's what's expected of them. But for the most part, they've never actually experienced joy and happiness, especially if they're born in. So they don't even know what they're missing. How do I know this? Well, for starters, I was an active Jehovah's Witness for the first 18 years of my life, and my entire family has been Jehovah's Witness for several generations back. There are so many Jehovah's Witnesses on antidepressants struggling with depression and exhaustion and anxiety. There are tons of Jehovah's Witnesses and former Jehovah's Witnesses who suffer from PTSD, including myself. It's unbelievable. That's all before we get into the pretty rampant abuse that goes on within the organization, both in the form of domestic violence and sexual abuse. It happens all the time. But the other misrepresentation we can talk about here is bringing our gifts and talents to His work. His work consists of preaching and handing out Watchtower publications, and if you're deemed good enough, you might go to Bethel and be involved in service to the governing body and the Bethel family, where you might help print the publications or develop videos or whatever. What gifts and talents can you bring to being a Jehovah's Witness in real life? Well, obedience is valued. Willingness to work very hard for no compensation, that's important, but actual gifts and talents, you aren't allowed to develop those. And if by some incredible stroke of luck, good fortune, whatever, you are allowed to, you're only allowed to use them in a very narrow, very micromanaged way. Here's an example. When I was young, in high school, I loved drama class. Loved it. I loved to act, and I really wanted to do that. Now, of course, as you know, this is not in any way acceptable on any level as a Jehovah's Witness, but in an effort to prove to me that I could do that in service to Jehovah, I was asked to be in a drama for a convention when I was about 15 or 16. Now, I was playing the part of a 13-year-old girl who thought she was too young to be baptized. I was baptized at 11. Anyway. Here's the thing, those dramas, even back then, were all taped and lip-synced. Even the gestures were scripted. It's not acting, guys. It's barely even pantomime. And, of course, I've already told you about getting yelled at for singing kingdom melodies in unapproved styles. Let's say, though, that you have a talent for art. You could use that for Jehovah, couldn't you? Well, yeah, if you're willing to go to Bethel and draw and paint exactly what they tell you to, in the exact style they want, on demand. There's not really any creativity there, is there? It's boring. What if your gift or talent is more practical, though, like graphic art or sign painting? Well, guess what you get to do then? You get to provide free signs for all the kingdom halls and assembly halls in the tri-state area. Your business carpet cleaning? You get to clean the Kingdom Hall carpets for free. What a blessing from Jehovah.
Though but small our service, yet the day we prove our hearts full devotion and express our love.
Look out, guys. Here come the apostrophes. Trust me, the unnecessary punctuation is just getting started. And notice that no matter what your service is, it's but small. I think this is worded this way on purpose. Now, you might be tempted to think that it's trying to say that even small acts of service are appreciated, but in my experience, that is not true at all. You'd be wrong if that was your assumption, because no matter what you do, it's never, ever enough when you're a Jehovah's Witness. Now, it looks like the songwriting team from accounting has been back at work here as well. Thereby we prove. Who sings like this? And who in the world thinks that prove and love rhyme? I mean, what are we trying to prove? Hey, wait, where you going? Don't you love me?
In Jehovah's service there is work for all.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Since the harvest reapers, there's a constant call.
Yes, that's true now more than ever. Since immigration has become such a hot button issue in America, there are crops that rot in the fields now for lack of workers to pick them. Migrant workers were the backbone of the agricultural labor force, and now farmers are having a hard time. What? Oh, this isn't about migrant workers. Okay. Well, what are we harvesting then? Green for the governing body? I mean, that sounds about right. I guess they're referring to the door-to-door work or bringing in the sheaves or whatever. I don't know. But there's always more pointless busy work to be done at the expense of any downtime or personal life that you might otherwise have. Gotta stay hyper busy after all, or you might realize that there's more to life than your controlling religion.
Second commission we've received from heaven. Yes, to us with blessings through the word or given.
What fresh apostrophized hell is this? How in the world did anyone think that given and heaven rhymed? Did they think we wouldn't notice that if they disguised both words with unnecessary apostrophes? Good grief. And I don't really want to hear about any commission from the Jehovah's Witnesses unless it starts with Australian Royal and ends with a sweeping policy change. And this second line is another example of crazy word salad. So let's analyze it. Rich blessings are supposedly given to us through the work, whatever the work is. I'm guessing it's the preaching work, but it could also be scrubbing the Kingdom Hall toilets or mowing the Kingdom Hall grass or serving on judicial committees if you're an elder. If you're an elder or a ministerial servant, you might even be tasked with stalking someone in the congregation who's been accused of wrongdoing, particularly if they don't immediately break down and confess the first time they're invited to meet with the elders for a chat. What rich blessings did you receive as a Jehovah's Witness through your witness work? Well, I received a sunburn while out in service many times, and blisters from walking miles in heels while carrying a bag of magazines and books that nobody wanted, including me. I received unwanted advances from several brothers and lots of snotty comments and middle school girl-type drama from the sisters in the congregation. Ultimately, I was blessed through disfellowshipping and lost my entire family. Yes, rich blessings indeed.
Even though deceitful and the truth deny, we know it's impossible for God to lie.
Time out. Thought terminating cliche. Jehovah's Witnesses refer to their religion as the truth. We know that, right? And notice how those men, of course, because women don't count, who deny the truth are deceitful. They're not denying the truth as in something based in fact. To a Jehovah's Witness, this reads as denying the Jehovah's Witness religion. So anyone who questions or disbelieves current approved Jehovah's Witness doctrine, regardless of their reason, is deceitful. It is impossible for God to lie. But what do these two concepts actually have to do with each other? Well, nothing if you aren't indoctrinated, but if you are, these things will naturally flow and make perfect sense. Because where does the truth, aka Jehovah's Witness doctrine and policy, come from? God himself. And God equals the watchtower. And it's impossible for God to lie, so anything watchtower says is the truth, and anyone who denies the truth is deceitful. You got that?
The word with diligence, for in it we have the utmost confidence.
Yes, we are going to preach carefully and persistently. Preaching is going to be the #1 priority in our lives because for some reason, brainwashing, we have utmost confidence in the truth, because you know the truth and the word are synonymous here, don't you? Yeah, they are. They're not preaching the Bible, no matter how many times they tell you they're offering a free home Bible study. Notice that they do not study the Bible. When I was a Jehovah's Witness, we studied the Live Forever book. Service, sweet service? This is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. We weren't glad to go out in service. We were miserable. We hated it. Hated it. Yeah, buddy, that's why you don't have any friends. Seriously, if you were born in, you were taught this crap, and that's why we're all socially awkward. People can tell when you have an agenda. It's the same thing that those old high school acquaintances on Facebook fall into. Hey girl, I haven't heard from you in 20 years, and we weren't even friends back then. Have you ever heard of Plexus? It changed my life. Yeah, we were those people.
Making us his servants, our high praises flow.
Why do they act like being made servants was a positive thing? I mean, ask anyone who understands the history of African slavery in the U.S., our actual touch point for the reality of slavery, whether that's true. So much for joyful service. Look, I will agree that sometimes you can find happiness and peace by looking outside yourself and helping others, but the key there is that you actually have to be helping others in some way, not shilling useless literature for the profit of a completely unconcerned and actually predatory third party. Ew.